À la guerre, comme à la guerre, as the French saying goes. A prisoner could not always expect to be kept alive, and there were many reasons for this. There was no point in taking prisoners during an offensive. To do so was to employ personnel to guard them. Convoying them with you makes no sense either. Then there were no options. To the wall, as they say, but such cases were extremely rare. The prisoners were often kept alive. What to do? The breadth of the Russian soul knows no limits. Hitlerites were sometimes forgiven. A lot of war crimes against civilians, but there were cases when German servicemen simply had no right for pardon. There were units that caused the Russian soldiers a special fierce hatred. It was not difficult to distinguish such fighters of the Wehrmacht. The awards, certain insignia, all sorts of chevrons spoke for them. Germans dreamed of surrendering to the Allied forces because they were little aware of the atrocities that Hitler's collaborators sometimes committed. If a soldier of the Wehrmacht realized that captivity could not be avoided, he tried as soon as possible to destroy very important evidence. The paraphernalia of the uniformed executioners. The Red Army soldiers were not ceremonious in such cases. They let them go to waste without a trial. Number 1, German badge for fighting with partisans. Bandenkampf Abzeichen on the owner's uniform meant only one thing. The prisoner was immediately put to waste without further questioning. The literal translation sounds like for fighting criminals, because that is how the Germans called the heroic defenders of their territories from occupation. The sign had 3 types of execution: bronze, silver, and gold. They meant the number of battles from 20 to 100, respectively, and it was taken into account directly battles, not just staying in the partisan forests. The sign is a sharp sword that went through the Hydra. Also on the sign, there is the symbolism of the SS. Soldiers of the Red Army, seeing this sign, very often confused the owner with the SS, although they were awarded absolutely all Hitlerites. Anyway, this is the most dangerous sign, promising nothing but capital punishment. The sign was established on January 30th, 1944, and not long pleased its owners. By the way, this sign was sent to the relatives of the owners, but whether it pleased those or not is an open question. Number 2, awards for bravery and merit, as well as insignia for members of Eastern cultures. They were established on July 14th, 1942 to award military personnel from Eastern nations, Eastern legions, Cossack units, local police battalions, order protection services, units of the Russian Liberation Army, etc. The Medal for Bravery was a combat award. It was analogous to the Iron Cross, and the Medal of Merit was awarded simply to zealous activists who did not fight but shit on the home front. They are very similar to each other, but the combat medal has crossed swords. The total number of those awarded with badges for bravery and merit for the Eastern nations amounted to about 100,000 people. Just think, 100,000 traitors received their awards, and these were traitors not by cowardice, but, so to speak, ideological, that went against their people willingly at the dictates of the soul. The owners of this sign were dealt with on the spot, which is quite justified. Number 3, SS uniforms. These, hardly to say, people the Red Army rarely left alive. There were terrible stories about the SS. Their cruelty knew no limits. Beasts, that's how Soviet people nicknamed this segment of the Third Reich. They took on the most gruesome jobs, from the destruction of villages and hamlets to ethnic cleansing. However, if capture was inevitable, SS men would tear off their insignia and pose as tankers. The uniforms were very similar. Not only Germans served in the SS divisions, they were formed from representatives of captured countries and their allies. Many members of the Wehrmacht were hunted specifically. As an example, the infantry division that massacred Zoya Kosmodemyanskaya. Joseph Stalin personally gave an order to execute all those involved in this terrible event. Hungarians were very brutalized, sparing neither old people nor small children, not to mention that they looted and pillaged. Almost all women were scorned, yet there was no relief for them either. If they were captured, they were guaranteed to be shot. Number 4, holders of the award for Crimea. Peninsular Crimea for a long time does not give rest to enemies. The Third Reich was no exception. The Germans had an idea for the most difficult battles to award the shield as a symbol of exceptional bravery and courage. Shield for the Crimea acted on the Red Army fighters as a scarlet rag on the bull. With the owners of this insignia was a short conversation, and the shield was awarded not only military but also civilians from the administrative department. If they smelled something hot, the Germans did their best to get rid of this award in order to somehow save their miserable lives. Number 5, the Vlasovites. Soldiers of the army had a higher chance of surviving, although everything depended ultimately on the mood of the Red Army. Many Vlasovites did end up in camps where they could redeem themselves, although treachery is extremely difficult to wash away. What did the insignia of the look like? They were arm insignia in the form of a dark green shield with a blue St. Andrew's cross on a white field with a red border and yellow letters in the upper part of the shield, and a patch with a red, blue, white flag and the letters above it, snipers. In 1944, Hitler ordered snipers to have individual insignia. It was something like a pennant for valor and courage. As soon as the count of trophies exceeded 20 people, he was given a patch. Silver, it was decorated after 40 people. Gold, after 60 people. Meticulous shooters tried to wound a soldier in order for the soldier to come to the rescue. Then the losses were greater. It sounds monstrous, but sometimes the cries of the wounded could so demoralize the soldiers that the attacks were suppressed. The eagles on the green background were abolished in 1945 so that captured snipers would have at least some chance of survival. Number 7, tattoos. Rarely, but the owners of tattoos with Nazi symbols were put to the wall. These could be the letters SS, swastika, or other images denoting belonging to the Third Reich. Although, as we understand, to see the drawings on the body, it is necessary that the fighter was without a tunic. Of course, not all executioners had special patches and chevrons. There are known cases when the police and ordinary soldiers of the Wehrmacht committed atrocities worse than the SS.